Right now, will Ohio make or break the Romney campaign? Troubling new numbers out for the GOP nominee. He's desperately got to turn things around in the Buckeye state come November. And next, a horrible call on Monday night caps off a weekend full of blunders for the NFL replacement refs. And it may, and I stress the word may, have forced the league here to agree to the referees' union's demands. But has the billion-dollar brand been tarnished? And do new ID laws strip some Americans of the fundamental right to vote here, or is it not too much to ask somebody to have a photo ID to go in the voting booth? We're going to tell you where voting is getting harder and why some are blaming bullies at the ballot box. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, September 27th. Only 40 days out from the election. Let that one sink in. We begin tonight, though, in the Midwest, specifically the state of Ohio. Now, both the president and Governor Romney campaigning across the Buckeye state today. And for Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan, Ohio, at least historically, would be a must-win state. No Republican ticket has ever won the White House without carrying Ohio in recent memory. But after weeks of gaffes, secret videos, sagging polls, this wasn't the reception that Romney might have wanted.
Wow, that's quite a guy, isn't it, Paul Ryan? That's something. Wait a second. Romney Ryan, Romney Ryan, Romney Ryan. There we go. All right, that's great. Thank you.
Now, the crowd's lack of enthusiasm for Romney could be emblematic here of a challenge that this guy's got to deal with. And again, the clock is ticking. Now, when you break down the numbers, Mitt Romney's problems go a lot deeper than an awkward soundbite. In the critical state of Ohio, a state pummeled by the sluggish economy, President Obama, he's got a 10-point lead with the latest numbers here over Romney. That according to the Times CBS News poll. 10 points, Ohio. And this isn't just some fluke of some random poll out of nowhere. In Florida, home of conservative favorites, when you talk about Senator Marco Rubio, Governor Rick Scott, same poll found the president has an even bigger lead. Now, perhaps even more worrying for the GOP insiders is how Romney appears to be losing the Republican advantage on issues always thought to be certainly strong suits going into this election given this economy. The same poll, it asked those Ohio voters who they trusted more on the economy, the issue Romney hoped to ride to the White House. President Obama, as you could see, coming out on top by 6 points. Then you go to foreign policy, usually an issue synonymous with Republican strengths. This is something the GOP's owned for decades. More than half of Ohio voters, they trust this president to deal with the issues with the likes of crazies like Mahmoud Ahmadinejad over Mitt Romney. And then there's the classic likability question. In this case, phrased as, who do you think cares more about the issues that matter to you? The president trounces Mitt Romney on this one as well, and by a very, very wide margin. Now, the response to Romney's recent woes from the GOP brain trust have grown increasingly harsh. You saw, many of you, the recent Wall Street Journal editorial. Karl Rove called the campaign's responses to Democratic attacks whiny, adding that Republicans, quote, wonder how prepared Mr. Romney and his team are for the mudfest that they have entered. And again, sticking on the conservative side, Weekly Standard editor Bill Kristol, hardly a bleeding heart here, doesn't even mention Romney in his last editorial, and instead warns that Republicans could lose their House majority this election. Kristol seems to imply that Mitt Romney's campaign dragging down Republican candidates nationwide. But does growing discontent with Romney's campaign pose the threat of splintering the GOP? And I want to bring our panel in on this. Dominic Carter, as always, political journalist and author. Tom Dohyerty, former advisor to Governor George Pataki. We'll see if we can actually get him to share an opinion. He's always so shy and retiring. And Jessica Proud, Republican strategist. Okay, I don't care. You guys can. You guys have dealt with good candidates, not so good candidates. This candidate hasn't helped the campaign. But beyond the messenger and message debate, there's 40 days left, Jessica. Every poll I look at, every logical pathway here to 270, the numbers don't add up for Romney. And we keep saying, oh, he's got to turn around. Well, it's getting late early. What does he have to do? Before even that, how big a hole do you think he's in right now?
Well, first of all, I reject that. I think he has several different paths he can take to get to that magic 270 number. This latest poll is completely oversampled. I don't think it's worth it's not credible. But if you look at where the race is right now, it's a snapshot in time. There hasn't been a single presidential debate yet, which, yes, this is going to be very important for Romney to deliver on those debates. Florida is still very much in play, Ohio in play. I think he'll win Florida with large numbers. So for everyone in the media to be discounting this race.
First of all, before we go into the media and the mainstream media beating up on Mitt Romney, I can go through chapter and verse, the Peggy Noonans, the Crystals. I can go through ad nauseum Republicans who are eviscerating the campaign and how it's done. Here's what Peggy Noonan had to say. The Romney campaign has to get turned around. This week, I called it incompetent, but only because I was being polite. I really meant a rolling calamity. Now, people have called for change in the people. We probably agree it's too late for that. We got to at least acknowledge this man's got a problem. And when polled, 4 out of 5 people think Romney will do better in the debate. I mean, I'm sorry, that Obama will do better in the debates. Give hope here to Republicans out there that they're not going to say, you know, let's save ourselves here and distance ourselves from the campaign. What is the compelling argument that he can still close at this point?
I think he has to stick to the facts. And when you look at Obama's record over the past 4 years, 43 months of unemployment over 8%, a disaster going on in the Middle East right now, which is only getting worse, and the fact that he has no plan for the next 4 years. So I think Romney has to make that very clear in his debates, stick to the facts, lay out his plan for the next 4 years versus Obama's, which is nothing.
Right. Sounds about right to me. Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, look, I really believe, I spoke to 3 people that have done polling for a living, and they shake their heads. And these are people that I trust, that they're not, are they 2 of the 3 Republicans? Yes. A third wasn't. Said, listen, these polls are way, way out of line. And he said.
But Tom, I'll let you finish, but my only point is, it's not just this poll. Every single swing state, from the Wisconsins to the Iowas to the Nevadas, they all show trending that it's going against Romney, for Obama, and every poll shows the gap getting wider and wider. It's not a single snapshot here. This is a trend.
I believe that right now that there's no question that Mitt Romney has had a couple of difficult weeks. There's no question about that. I do believe, as Jessica said, that what Bill Kristol says means nothing. What Peggy Noonan means nothing. Because anybody who's followed them or read their articles, they're voting for Mitt Romney on Election Day. This election is going to come down to, over the next 40 days or so, what happens in the 3 presidential debates, and whether or not Mitt Romney can do 2 things. One, have some sort of connection with voters in America that say, I can be a better president than what we've suffered through over the last 4 years. And people trust that. And number 2, do the American people, are they reminded of the fact of what we've gone through over the last 4 years? That all the promises that were made, all the different things that were said, none of it happened. And what is the direction they want to take in the country? Pollings don't matter a lot to me 40 days out, because I lived through a gubernatorial race that in 3 weeks out, I had George Pataki down 14 points to an incumbent governor of the state of New York. 14 points were the same headlines. It's over, Pataki's done, nice run, no way, it's over. We live in a world where politics changes on a daily basis. Mitt Romney has the money.
I don't disagree with you, but what I don't still see, though, Tom, is, I get it, barring some international incident here that would change the dynamic, which I suppose is possible, by now, the public's been so oversaturated for so long with these 2, and the amount of undecideds is so slim right now.
But that's what you believe. Again, you're walking into a different premise than I am. I'm not walking into this believe anywhere close that Ohio's a 10-point swing. I'm not believing that Florida is an 8 or 9-point swing. I really believe today, if the vote was held in Florida, Mitt Romney wins that election. Now, we can disagree about it. That is not coming from.
Fair enough. I've been fair. Don, I've seen. God knows, Reagan was down going into the debates here, so you could certainly make the argument. Although I would say, Mitt Romney ain't no Ronald Reagan in terms of communication.
That's number one.
But you're looking at something different.
You're looking at Reagan, though, 8 years later. How would you have felt 3 weeks before the election when Ronald Reagan was down 7 points? what would you have said about Ronald Reagan then? We're looking at it historically.
I would have said he had an asset that Mitt Romney didn't, which was people liked or wanted to like Mitt Romney. People, I'm sorry, wanted to like Ronald Reagan. Nobody other than his family likes Mitt Romney.
No, but that's not true, though. Ronald Reagan's personal unfave was well below the 50 mark at this time in 1980. Well below that.
They criticized him for being a lightweight, for being unintelligent.
I agree with that. Dead time with Bonzo. I mean, you got to put everything in perspective.
Technical foul.
Throw
timeout.
Throw a reflected red flag.
Red flag.
That's the next segment. Go ahead. Yeah.
What these two, they're very good at it. But the fact of the matter is, they will stick to these talking point lines. They're very disciplined. They're much more disciplined than Mitt Romney is. They will stick to these talking points until election night, 9:15 p.m. And then, like everybody else, they will start talking about what went wrong for the Romney folks.
See, for me, I think this
it's
is
almost
the issue,
over,
Don.
Richard.
I think you're right, but
anything is possible, but it's almost over.
Let's talk like their objects are not even here, okay?
Okay.
Are they more worried, really? Republican strategists around, and I saw, Governor Walker say the same thing in Wisconsin. I've seen other Republican leaders saying, hold on a second here. Down ticket. We're going to start getting it handed to us.
What they're really worried about, and, he mentioned Cuomo, Pataki. He's right. Pataki was down. But the sentiment throughout the country was ABC, anybody but Cuomo. Big difference. That's not what Americans are saying about Obama. What they are really worried about that they're not saying tonight is Mitt Romney may take the whole ship down with him.
That is utterly preposterous.
They may lose the House with Mitt Romney. That's how bad this race is.
There is a very good possibility that we actually may pick up House seats, because if you go through the map of all the House seats, I don't know under what could possibly happen in the next 40 days.
No, there are Democrats.
I am not worried about retaining the House.
There are Democrats all over this
country
country that are scrambling to distance themselves from Obama, that wouldn't show up at the convention.
Right.
I mean, especially Jewish voters as of late. So to suggest
that may be a valid point. But how many Republicans are showing up to be seen with Mitt Romney?
Who has said we're not going to be seen with Mitt Romney? Who hasn't? Where has he gone that a governor or a senator or anybody running for office hasn't stood with Mitt Romney?
Listen,
you're talking about New York?
Richard,
he hasn't campaigned in New York. You're not talking about Iowa or Michigan.
When you like the polls, look at the polls.
Right.
When you don't like the polls, who can believe the numbers?
Right.
All right. I'm just saying, 40 days out.
Rasmussen has a dead heat today. I mean, Rasmussen's been fairly consistent in his polling methodology. I'm just saying, listen, it could be definitely wrong, but I'm just saying is that to say 40 days out, my experience is you can't say it's over.
Let me put it this way, Richard. Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But we might leave here tonight and hit lotto. That's about Mr. Romney's chances.
How can you reject the fact that there is not multiple different paths here to victory for him?
Possible.
Well, no.
I concede that. Possible.
The mathematic paths to get there, and I know we're heavy, guys, I'm sorry, but it's more restrictive for Romney in that obviously, you guys know this. You got the New York, you got the California. He needs, if he loses Ohio.
He can't do it without Ohio.
Right, he's got to get Ohio.
But the point is that tell me on the other flip side, because all we do is spend time talking about Mitt Romney. Tell me why Barack Obama deserves a second term.
That's not the issue. I'm not talking about.
In the end, that's going to be the issue. No. That is going to be the overall
You and I
issue.
both know that's not. At this point,
that is the issue.
Said,
that is the issue, Richard. And you know why?
It's going to be
because
the
the American people have already decided. That's why Obama is ahead in the polls.
In which poll? In your poll?
In most polls.
Not the
We're going to continue this debate in the break here, but when we come back, we'll leave the gentle world of politics and go to football here. NFL, if you just like the game, you either were between outraged or disgusted after this weekend, and it got even worse on Monday night here. The call that ended the game, and I think robbed the Packers here, might have been the final straw. There's talk of a deal coming down. We'll tell you the latest with that. We'll also bring you into the question here and say, is it enough? Should the NFL give in and do whatever they got to do to cave into the demands of the union? 387662428. We'll be right back.
2 minutes?